Many moms of neurodivergent children find themselves feeling overwhelmed, finding realistic strategies to help their children with emotional regulation. Hi, I'm Emily Hamblin, neurodivergent mama of four and parent coach for neurodivergent families who are seeking to have emotionally healthy families. Now, there's a lot that goes into the reasons why a neurodivergent child is dysregulated and how we can help them with their emotional regulation. But one piece that's often overlooked, especially in today's online space, is the impact that a child's physical health has on their mental, spiritual, and emotional health. Today, I am so excited to announce our guest, 2 times TEDx speaker, Katie Kimball, to talk to us about the impact that a child's nutrition has on their emotional regulation. And of course, we talk a lot about the impact that nutrition has on our emotional regulation also. Now, if you're instantly thinking, okay, I have enough guilt surrounding nutrition, I have enough on my plate, I cannot add one more thing. Well, the good news is this is not meant to give you more on your plate. This interview includes some very powerful, critical thinking skills for both you and your child, and will empower you to make more informed, realistic decisions for your family. Can't wait to dive in. Welcome, Katie. We are so excited to have you. Can you please introduce yourself a little bit to us?
Sure thing. Well, I'm a mom, first of all. My kids currently are 10, 13, 16, and 20. So I do have one launched, so to speak. He graduated a few years ago, decided college debt was not for him, and started his own business. But he does live at home. So sort of launched, sort of not, but we give him responsibilities in exchange for not paying rent. And I've been teaching kids to cook for almost 10 years online. That has become like my heart's mission and passion. I always knew when I was a kid I wanted to be a teacher, taught third grade for like 2 years, and then I had my family, and I knew that if I split my brain between parenting and teaching, that both would suffer big time. So I stayed at home and then started this little online business thing, helping families stay healthy without going crazy and blogging. And that sort of tumbled into teaching kids to cook, which has been such a joy, just watching thousands of families around the world build confidence for their kids and help their kids build a better relationship with food. And I guess maybe I'm a serial entrepreneur now because I also run the Life Skills Now summer camp because we kept hearing from our audience they wanted to teach their kids to cook to build life skills. And I'm like, maybe I can help with other life skills too. And so that's been running for 4 years now. Emily, you're part of it, so you know a little bit about it. That I pull together experts in all sorts of fields, from finances to entrepreneurship to emotional regulation to neurodivergence, and we teach kids and teens through really short videos life skills, and we get them off the screen, send them out into the real world. So this is something that's really been resonating with parents. I think there's a hunger right now
Yes.
in our culture to yes, like we've done the academic thing, we've done the extracurricular thing as a society, but we've like lost our normal like human life skills. So this in our fourth season will be up to 350 different life skills, which is so exciting.
That is so exciting. And I love that you have a neurodivergent track. We have the link in the show notes for everyone that wants to join. I hope they do. If nothing else, just to watch my workshop right now.
Absolutely. Well, and they can go to kidscookrealfood.com/enlightening if they don't want to go to the show notes.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. So, Katie, I just need to call out the elephant in the room right now. You are someone who teaches kids to cook. You're all about eating real food. And here you are on a podcast that focuses a lot on helping parents of neurodivergent kids become emotionally empowered. So let's call this out. Why are we here? I know why you're here, but what's this connection between our what kids are eating and what we're eating, what our physical health is doing, and what our emotional health is experiencing?
We have one body, right? And in that body is our brain, and in that body is our digestive system. And there really is a massive gut-brain connection. We know that food has an intense relationship with the way we feel, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. We just had we call it our well child checkups. My husband and I just had our yearly physicals yesterday, and I love our doctor. He's just really, really good and really like holistically minded. But he reminded us that stress is the number one factor in all cause mortality. It's the number one driver of it drives like 80 to 85% of doctor's visits. Ultimately, it's stress at the root cause. And so so we know that that's like an emotional mental stressor affecting our physical health, and it goes both directions. So what we
Mm.
eat can absolutely affect our kids' emotions. And we can go a little more in detail for that, but that's kind of the broad overview.
Yes, I love this. This has been a really aha moment for me in my parenting and many of the mothers in our community is realizing, I mean, we all know when a kid is hangry or when we're hangry,
Hmm.
that affects us. And I know for me, when I was in really, really trying times of parenting, we had two foster kids with needs we hadn't quite identified. I was still understanding my own needs and emotional growth as a parent. And everything in society says to do what when you're stressed and when you're hangry? Eat chocolate,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Oh, just go and eat chocolate. And so that's what I would do. And without even thinking it's the story that I'm answering in my head, I would go and eat chocolate and I would feel like instantly better for about a minute. And then I would just become really shaky and extra irritable. And I realized, maybe eating chocolate isn't what I need right now. And so that's just like a small shift and really simple example of, okay, so we're hungry and we need to eat, but what if the quality of what we're eating is going to matter also?
I'm like dying to know now, was it the caffeine or was it the sugar? Or was it
Mm.
the lack of fat and protein,
There
that
wasn't
you
much
really needed?
caffeine. I was eating like a brownie. And
Okay.
so
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it was the sugar.
uh-huh.
I've had to cut out refined sugar personally. So
Right,
pretty sure it was that.
which is so interesting. And people do say, we call them comfort foods for a reason
Oh.
because they immediately spike our dopamine response
Mm.
when we eat these like generally high starch or high sugar foods. They really are comforting. But internally, of course, they also spike our blood sugar and then we have the crash. Yours within a minute
Yeah.
is unusual. It's
I
much
don't
more
know if it was
common.
a minute. We're
You're in a
talking
very
about a
sweet.
really hazy time here, but
Sure.
I just remember like, oh, I feel better, and then suddenly, what felt like suddenly, it was like, oh wait, now I'm actually feeling worse.
Yeah, if we apply what we know about blood sugar, you would have gotten like a massive spike in quick burning energy, but then you burned it and you're like right back to the hanger and the fact that you had to endure, your system had to endure the
Mm.
spike and the crash. Now you're actually feeling worse than the first time. You know that you were feeling a little hangry. So does diet impact, our kids' emotions? Absolutely. If they're, we see it all the time. No parent has not seen their kid get hangry. And I know like my youngest is 10 right now. And we've actually identified over the past few months, like he will have a complete meltdown and we'll get him some food. It's snack time. And he is able to articulate, wow, mom, maybe sometimes when I'm flipping out, just remind me that I need to eat. Like I'm amazed because I'm like, well, yeah, I forgot again, and I'm the adult with the fully formed brain. And so we do need that. So we know, and we know that we need that like fat and protein and fiber and those satiating nutrients that will stick to our ribs and keep us hanger avoidance until the next eating opportunity. And we can even talk about things like having enough magnesium in our diet, which ironically magnesium is in chocolate, which could be sometimes why we're like drawn to chocolate, but magnesium is a calming mineral. Magnesium helps our sleep be more restful and helps kids and adults fall asleep faster. And so there's like a domino effect, really, with what we feed our bodies and the way we feel. Because again, every parent knows when your kid is low on sleep, look out.
Mm.
Like things fall apart, emotions fall apart. Sometimes the immune system falls apart. My goodness, we would send our kids off to grandma's for a sleepover when they were younger. And every time I'd go, oh man, here we go again.
Yep.
Because not only are they really dysregulated when they get home from all the excitement, increased screen time, and maybe the increased sugar, but I swear, Emily, within 2 days, they would get a cold.
Mm.
And every time I'm like, was that worth the night that I got, all by myself or with my husband in better sleep? I'm like, I don't know if this is worth it because then they're like miserable. And I really think it was like that increased sort of sugar, grandma's house sugar for the week and sleep being disrupted and everything. We're that one system and our system is designed to need really good input. like putting better gas in our car, right?
Yes.
And if we put better fuel into ourselves, we feel better all the way around.
Oh, I love this. I love this. And I know it's very common right now in the online space to say, oh, there's no good foods and there's no bad foods. It's just
Mm.
calories. And all you really need are the calories and the, get your macros, or I don't know. I'm not in on all of that necessarily. But so I always do point out, like, sure, we can say there's no good food and bad food if we're talking about morality. I wasn't a bad person for eating chocolate. And now if my kids eat chicken nuggets for dinner, which I don't know, we could go into things. I'm not like a bad mom. And
Yeah.
if I let them have fruit snacks or ice cream, even if I know they're going to be emotionally dysregulated, I'm not doing something immoral, right? And so in that regard, sure, we can say there's not good food and no bad food, but we can also think the food that we put into our bodies
Mhm.
will have an impact on our physical health, and our bodies are connected to our brains, and our brains are connected to our bodies. Like you said, it's one unit. And so there's going to be an impact based on what we put into it.
It's true. And it is so, oh, social media has made a lot of things into a controversy. And you're absolutely correct to pull morality out of food. There are still people who say, morality aside, that we shouldn't say there are good foods and bad foods. However, and it's true if you're trying to survive.
Yeah.
Okay. If
And I
I'm in,
know, like, we have some listeners that have depression. And I know if you're in a depressive state and you're like, the only thing I can eat is ice cream, then,
Yep.
that's great. You're in a state where ice cream is what you have. And that's okay. If you're in a state where you can do more.
Right. Like our kids need calories to survive. Most of us as mothers don't just want to keep them alive, we want them to thrive. We want them to live their best lives. And I've recently seen like another one of the online social media controversies is people who say, nope, like ADHD is purely genetic. It is not caused by food. And all the voices who say that food can help ADHD symptoms are wrong. They're
Hmm.
selling you snake oil. And I'm like, okay, can we do a both and? Can we
Yeah, because
say
then
that
we have the
ADHD
other extreme that says, oh, it's only caused by the things that we've cut out of our diet, and I still have ADHD. So,
Right, right, right. And so
yeah.
like can we do a both and? Can we say
Yeah.
yes, for sure there are genetic components to ADHD and neurodivergence. How many times does a child get a diagnosis and then the parent realizes, "Oh my goodness, this is my diagnosis too."
That
Right?
was
It's a mini me. Yes, it is your
that
story.
was my journey.
Totally. It's super common. But can we also agree that the environmental inputs, whether it's toxins we're talking about or whether it's food, like what if we could make a tweak in the environmental input and improve the way our kids feel?
Yes.
Like wouldn't that be worth it? So I really think it is. We talk about like something as simple as hydration, quite
Mhm.
honestly. We've got one of our camp leaders at Life Skills Now, Mary Vogt, is teaching kids how to make a hydrating drink. And so instead of the Gatorade or whatever other brands there are, where they're throwing in sugar, food coloring, and some minerals and selling it to you for like $1.50 a bottle, right?
That's on sale. Yeah.
That's on sale, exactly. So she's going to teach kids how they can make their own with a little bit of natural sweetener, no food coloring,
Mhm.
and the minerals. And it's so cool how she teaches that you actually like hydrate your body better with that water than just straight water. And so you don't even need to consume as much. And so a lot of moms are like, "Oh, I can't get my kids to drink water." Like they're bored by it. Especially neurodivergent kids are like, "Whatever, this is so boring. Like this is not worth
I
my
have
time, right?"
one of those kids.
Yeah. And so it's a big problem, but you know that their system is not running as well when it's not hydrated. So I just think that is so empowering for kids to learn that for themselves. Not only here's how to make the water taste more fun, but also it's hydrating you more effectively. So cool, right? Like yes, we could just drink water or we could do it better and more effectively. So I just think that when I think about parents thinking about like, oh, like how do I decide what to feed my kids? Let's figure out what best serves their bodies and their brains and try our best to do that most of the time according to our ability.
I love that. I love that. And I also love to bring my kids on board and explain to them. My 14-year-old is in you know, a 14-year-old phase right now of
Yeah.
questioning a lot of what he's been taught by his parents, and I'm here for it. I
Good.
love it, actually. I love it.
Yes.
And he started to question, like, so why don't you eat sugar, mom? And really,
Mm.
what's so bad about it? And I've noticed he might go and eat a lot more sugar, like with friends or something, and then he'll come back and be like, I think I'm going to cut out some of my sugar. Like it's almost like he's listening, but he has to go and experiment for himself. And
Totally.
and I'm here for that. I love it. You talk a lot about the need to help our children think critically
Mhm.
more than ever in today's world. You have a TEDx talk that is fabulous on this. Talk to us about the need to think critically as we're speaking about nutrition and our physical health.
Well, we can't just listen to every expert because they literally say opposite things, right? So we're forced to think critically and make our own decisions. I mean, we've already talked about, we got people saying, oh, like food can't at all affect ADHD. And well, food can like heal ADHD. Ah. So what do we need to do? We've got to ask a lot of questions. I mean, that's always my first step in building critical thinking kids is we want to raise kids who ask questions. So I thought that was so cool that you let in with like, oh, my 14-year-old is asking a lot of questions. I was like, yes, that's great. And so as adults, sometimes we've lost that ability to be curious
Mm.
and to ask a lot of questions. And so that would be my encouragement for us as adults is like how can we ask more questions? How can we examine, our own lived experience? Again, your son is like the perfect example that he's like he's going to go out and try it and then assess. That's what I tell parents of picky eaters. It's like one of the greatest gifts we could give our kids is to teach them to listen to their body. Because I don't know, I was raised in like the 80s and 90s. No one ever told me, what if a certain food makes you feel yucky?
Yeah.
Ever. And we have so many kids now who have food sensitivities. They might have foods that just aren't friendly to them. I know now that if I want to eat a bowl of oatmeal, I'm going to feel kind of yucky afterward.
Mm.
But I never realized that as a kid because I wasn't connecting my food with the way I felt. So what a beautiful gift to give your kids. Like examine the way you feel. And maybe you'll decide, mom's crazy for giving up sugar. It doesn't affect me. Maybe then, too, part of our conversation with our kids is pulling in like actual research and other people's experiences. I do think that the more we ask questions, the more we examine kind of our own experience, the more we'll be able to figure out that gut sense of what really aligns well with what my family needs. And then how can I find people to teach me how to do that faster, more effectively, better, less overwhelmingly,
Yes.
right? So that I can actually make happen what like my mental ideal is.
Okay. This is so good. And I had like three thoughts at once. I'm trying to decide which one to which one to go with next. You've said before that when you send lunches to school with your children, that you send real food. I know
Mhm.
sometime you've mentioned that there's been like even bullying or even some emotional management you've had to do with your
Mhm.
children surrounding this. Can you talk to us about that experience?
Oh, lunches have been tough for some of mine. My oldest has really thick skin, and so he never cared when people would be like, "What is that?" He just didn't care. Like he would like be like, "Well, you want to try it?" It's absolutely his personality. And then my second is a girl, completely the opposite. And so, yeah,
Mm.
she's the one where the story is she was picked on so hardcore for her lunches in fourth grade that she's a junior in high school now. She still has trouble eating in front of people, and it
Mm.
breaks my heart. But I wouldn't have changed it. Like I wouldn't change it for the world because that's going to be part of her story of eventually ultimately building resilience and realizing that, those kids who teased her in fourth grade, like they really didn't matter. She's not there yet. Her brain is not fully formed, she's still in adolescence. And actually my heart is breaking a little bit this school year because my youngest in fourth grade, he's like our biggest extrovert. He'll talk to anyone about anything. So I always thought that he would be really thick-skinned, that he'd be a little more protected, from like just the stupid words that other kids say. And this year we make homemade yogurt, and so it's white. It's not pink or green like the other kids. Like there's berries in it. It's got a little bit different consistency. It's a little bit stringy looking sometimes. It's homemade, so it's different every time. Like that's the problem, right? It's not processed food. And one kid said, "Are you eating glue?"
Mm.
And I don't know what it was. I don't even think it was consistent over many days. I think it was once or twice. And it just got into my little Gabe's heart. He's like written about it in at school and how much it hurt him, how much it affected him.
Mm.
He was really like, I don't know if I want to take yogurt anymore. But again, I wouldn't change it for the world because we did talk through it. He decided on his own that he would still pack yogurt and he'd try to get through. So he's been like processing it, I think, by telling that story because he still tells the story. And I'm like, I think this was 3 months ago. Like it's not
Mm.
ongoing. He's written about it. And so to me, it's building resilience. At the same time, it does break my heart. We don't want to see our kids in pain. But I mean, I know that that nourishment is so important, that sending real food. It definitely can cause some conflict. It definitely cause some problems, but ultimately I want my kids to be the kind of kids who I always call it walking upstream. Like I want them to have the muscle of resilience to walk upstream because honestly, a lot of things I see in culture, whether it's our values, our faith, our, the way we choose to treat the earth and our environment, the way we choose to eat, we're pretty countercultural. Like we're just kind of stuck there. So I need my kids to be strong and to be able to continue to push against that culture that just says, make it easy, make it quick, food doesn't matter, put your kids on screens. I'm like, we're just not those kind of people. So we got to give our kids times that are hard
Mm.
to build up that muscle.
Mm. Okay, so everybody wants to know what are some examples of the real food that you send to
Ooh,
school for lunch?
well, we send a lot of leftovers, honestly. So I try to train my kids when they're little by like giving them cold leftovers that they can eat cold food. So maybe it'd be like shredded barbecue chicken from the slow cooker and rice.
Mm.
And then we pack that after dinner. But that doesn't look like pretty. You know what I mean? A pile of meat. Like it just doesn't look that pretty. We eat tacos once a week. So my kids will take like 2 or 3 times a week. They're having like a taco salad for lunch. But again, it gets all mixed, shaken up, right? The salsa and the sour cream and the meat. It just doesn't look pretty when you open it. So definitely, it's a lot of leftovers. We tend to either have no bread or gluten-free bread, which is not that great for sandwiches. Gluten-free
Mm.
bread, just tends to be a little
It falls
drier.
apart. Yeah.
And so if my kids do have lunch meat, it'll be like lunch meat wrapped around a pickle or lunch meat wrapped
Oh,
around string cheese, which again, it's like the guts of the sandwich, but it doesn't look like the sandwich.
yeah.
And other kids are very visual. So they'll just look at the food. And if they don't immediately know what it is, it's foreign to them. And
Mm.
therefore they're going to say something weird about it, apparently.
Mm. And that does make sense. I mean, from the other kids' perspective and our children's perspective,
Mhm.
humans want to be part of the tribe.
Yeah.
If we're ousted from the flock, the wolves might come get us.
Yeah.
And it does take more of that, upper level thinking and more of our intentional brain where we can think and say, okay, people might make fun of my kids, and I need to remember they
Mhm.
won't be ousted from the tribe. We will still have flock protection, right?
Right.
And to help our kids understand that too. It's a very powerful thing. This is we could we can talk about food. I can talk about just about anything with
Mhm.
our family's use of screens, with the way that we manage emotions, with the way that I parent my children surrounding their meltdowns. It's very
Mhm.
much independent thinking. And it's hard too, going back to, our critical thinking. It's hard too in this online space, especially when I find maybe somebody that I think, oh, I can trust this person and everything they say. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so much easier to agree than disagree. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
it takes less brain power. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then suddenly I'm like, wait, I don't agree with this. I agreed with, you know, 10 other things you said, but now I have to critically think. I
Right.
no longer agree right here. Okay. So, how do you then build that confidence in your children to think critically and to be willing to be different?
For me, I think the home base needs to be that really safe place. And I'm sure, and this is what you teach all the time about like the emotions and how we can help our kids manage their emotions. So I think if home is a very safe space, I mean, I'm a huge proponent of family dinners. I think the most important thing we can give our kids isn't actually the food that we serve, but it's the relationship with that food, being open to trying new things, and the relationship with each other that we build at those family dinners. So I actually recommend that we don't talk about food or stressful situations at dinner, if at all possible. Obviously, if a kid is like had a hard day and they want to talk about it, we don't, you let them do that.
Mm.
But it wouldn't be the time to be like, how are your grades?
Mm.
Right? Like the like stressful questions or a adult conversation about the state of the world, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not for the kids. And so as much as we do want to serve balanced food, we want to make sure that our kids have that like really safe home base that they always know when they come home after they've been out in the world and maybe they did see a wolf, that they're always safe at home and just having that balance. I think is so, so important. Balance on the plate too. Like I'm thinking about, we've got two camp leaders this year who are teaching one for the kids. Dr. Manasa Mantravati is teaching the kids how to build a balanced plate. And then Natalie Caraba is a nutritionist and university professor. She's teaching the teens like how to balance their plate with macros. And that's
Mm.
awesome. Like I do think kids will build confidence when they have skills, when they have knowledge and all of that, but then they also need just that emotional safety so that they understand, not all kids have learned these skills. And it's amazing. Like our family is doing this for you. But just I love the idea of like the family culture. Like this is what our family does. And it gives the kids that, I guess, home base of just the deep-seated values.
That's fantastic. A few years ago, I spoke with a feeding therapist about helping children that are picky eaters, which I know you're an expert in also. But the very first piece of advice that she gave me threw me off a little bit. She said, first, think about what the table environment is like. Is that a
Mm-hmm.
place that they want to be? And I know in our home, we have four kids, lots of neurodivergence. Meal times are often really chaotic. Transitions are rough. So going from what they're doing to the table can be rough. And to go from, you'd better get to the table right now to,
Yes.
hey, we're going to invite you to the table. I play the piano while my husband invites him to the table. Like we've just tried to put in a lot of shifts to change the feeling around that meal. And it's helped some. We do still have, one kid that will come and the first thing he does when he sits down is say, are there onions in my food?
Oh no.
And that's still the first thing. It's probably been a year now. And sometimes it's no, no onions in this food. And other times it's, yes, do you want me to help you pick them out? Like, because, you
I
know,
wonder, does he need like an onion meter? I almost wonder if you need like a little card of like a red and green so he can just sit down and see if it's an onion meal. I don't know.
so
Because that's tough. You're right. Like the way that our brains wire of what our expectations are and the way we start a meal is very, very important. Something as simple as, hey, please wash your hands, it can actually make an impact over dinner's ready, come to the table. It like puts one thing
mm,
between having to end the activity that they're doing that is preferred and then the meal. It's like now the washing hands can be the bad guy.
mm,
Simple, tiny. But I love the piano. Some people use that dinner bell. You might try soft, yeah, like soft music playing in the background. Like there are so many ways to start that meal well. Again, regardless of what's on the table. Could be chicken nuggets and French fries, don't care. But if your kids feel good about the family dinner table, that is a huge gift.
mm. Okay, this is so good. So for parents that do want to start making the simple shifts, we talked about how sugar can often lead to that blood sugar spike and then more emotional dysregulation. For parents that want to start for themselves, for their children, for whatever, to incorporate more foods that will help with their emotional regulation, what would you recommend?
I am a baby steps girl. All the way, always have been. And so I think particularly with neurodivergence, we want these like quick wins, little dopamine hits. We need the baby steps. And so it's likely a terrible idea to be like, I'm ditching sugar completely for the whole family starting tomorrow. For most, but like there are unique individuals who can do that. But for most people, that will be a losing proposition in the long run. But you could take a baby step like, okay, I'm looking at my pantry. I got my eye on like two particular things that I'm feeling a little squeamish about. Like I don't like that these are in my house. So just commit when you run out of that thing, don't buy it anymore.
Mm,
That's a simple baby step. It'll give your brain some time to get used to the idea. You're not throwing away the food, not hurting your food budget. You're just like, when I run out, I'm going to buy something different. I'm not going to buy that particular thing. That would be a really, really simple baby step. Or like, okay, if sugar's your target, you could be like, all right, we're not going to do any added sugar at breakfast. just breakfast, won't even think about it the rest of the day. That would be another, like, see how we can just like, we can target a certain item, we can target a certain time of day, and just attempt to scale back instead of ditching completely. And then, I mean, I love the positive too. So how can we like, okay, maybe sugar is the target, but what would be like the opposite? If we eat less sugary stuff, what would be like a good, nutritious food, wholesome food that we want to fill that gap with? And so you might say, okay, I'm going to every week for this month, we're going to try one new vegetable as a family or one new preparation style of a vegetable that has been non-preferred for kids, but maybe could become a preferred vegetable if it was presented in a different way.
Mm.
And that's, again, that's a great gift to give our kids to remind them that a raw carrot is different than a cooked carrot, steamed carrot, different than a roasted carrot, it's different than a carrot smothered in cheese. Like they all taste completely different. Again, my little guy will be like, I don't like chicken. And so I'm constantly reminding him, you're right. You are not a fan of this chicken. But remember the chicken we had last week and you did like it. And so like we have to like remind our kids' brains and remind our brains that food presented in different ways can be different. So I would definitely say baby steps, maybe no more than one new change a week and give your brain time to get used to the idea. Getting the kids on board would be hot tip number whatever am I at 5? I don't know. Hot tip is to getting the kids on board. That's why I have a kids cooking class. That's why I have life skills now because parents say, "Oh my gosh, Katie, I say stuff all the time," right? It's my voice saying do your homework. It's my voice saying wash your hands after you go to the bathroom. It's my voice saying you have to get out of bed in the morning and start your day. And the kids are so tired of it. And so to have 70 other voices who are basically, they're saying the same thing mom and dad are saying, just in a different presentation, just like the vegetables. And it lands and it works, and then the kids are more on board. And instead of a power struggle, you're just walking next to each other toward the same goal. So I mean, I love that part of my job. It is so much fun to see families get on board with the same thing, whether it's the house cleaning or whether it's, the healthy eating, whether it is emotional regulation or stress regulation, finances and budgeting for kids to understand kind of how money works so that they're not like, I want this. Can I give me this in the store? Imagine a life without that. Emily, wouldn't that be lovely? So the more skills we can build for our kids, the more we can be on a team with them, working toward a positive goal.
Okay, fantastic. And to bring it full circle, I'll go back to when I was hangry and stressed and that moment when we're like, I just need something. Now I reach for protein and I reach for healthy fats and I reach for fiber. And I still get the dopamine hit where I'm like, but then it's like a longer wave to ride. Like I don't crash down. And it's just that little change of eating more protein, more healthy fats, more probiotic rich foods and fiber rich foods. It's made a big difference. I love this idea of baby steps though. I think I dove in a little bit hard and my kids were like, we're not eating raw cashews, mom. Like maybe the highly roasted salted, maybe we can try those alongside some M&Ms. But yeah, I dove in a little hard and they still kind of, the younger they are, the easier it's been. Yesterday I was sitting on the couch eating salad and it had garbanzo beans and it had all sorts of power greens and it was seasoned with like just vinegar and chia. And it's like this super crunchy, like super crunchy salad. And my 3-year-old came over and she's like, I want your salad, mom. And so I sat there giving her bites and, feeding her, feeding me. And I finished it up and she turned around and she had a meltdown because I didn't save her any of my salad. So,
isn't that funny?
It's just, and had I said, okay, you must eat the salad, she probably would have been like, I'm not eating that salad, mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
But her
interesting.
relationship with you allowed her to build like that bridge to having a friendship with the chia vinegar salad. That's
Yes,
beautiful.
it was a good salad. Although my teenage self is like, what are you eating?
Oh, I love it.
That's so good, so good. My teenage self ate like processed cheese on white bread and called it healthy. So it's fun, the changes we can make. Okay. So are there any specific kinds of food? I mentioned proteins, healthy fats, probiotic, fiber-rich foods. Can you think of specific foods families can start incorporating to make that small shift? without having
I
to
mean,
jump into chia power green vinegar salads.
right, right, right. I mean, yes, you hit the macros. Really, the answer is whole foods as packaged in nature.
Mm.
So whether that's the fruit category or the vegetable category or the meats, proteins, legumes category or the dairy if you tolerate it, if we can just sort of examine like, what am I eating? How many ingredients are in that? Could I make it at home? Will I make it at home? So the shifts really, I don't think there are like necessarily magic foods. There are for some people, for sure. Like, some people really need more magnesium or some people really need more of that, like fat, protein, fiber. That is definitely a recipe for success as far as satiety and avoiding the hangry symptoms. But really, if we could just eat more foods as packaged in nature, less foods packaged in a plant designed by scientists, we're winning.
Okay, so good. Oh, I could go on and on about the packaged foods, but I think we'll. The critical thinker, when I learned that they literally have food scientists on board to make the foods more addictive, like the chips, they literally bring in trained scientists to make your brain want more. I was like, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, that
That,
explains my childhood. Okay.
yeah.
All
Yeah, and
right.
they call it the bliss point, right? So like Cheetos, they'll make like 50 different, slightly different versions of Cheetos with a little bit more like spice or whatever,
Mm.
and have people come in and they figure out the exact bliss point that's not too tangy spicy and that's not too bland that just makes people eat the most. It's crazy.
Oh, I've definitely eaten an entire like bag of Cheetos in one sitting.
Mm-hmm. Because
Not
your
many.
brain was tricked. It's not your fault, right? It like literally short circuits the good decision making in our brain.
I love that reminder. Okay. As we wrap this up, what is one thing you hope that every family knows about raising emotionally healthy families?
Mm, that it's a whole package. And I know that's like more than one thing, but I am a two flavors of ice cream on one cone kind of girl. That to raise emotionally healthy kids, we need to, give them our love and our safety and their emotional home base, but that we can also support their emotional regulation with food and with, learning skills to gain confidence. And so it really is a whole package. We don't have to be A+ students in every piece of that curriculum, though, as long as our kids know that they are loved. I think that's the one place we got to be A+, and then everything else is what can we do to be a little better tomorrow than we were today.
This is fantastic. Before we say goodbye, I'm sure everybody wants to come and find you. Where can people find you?
Well, we've been talking about life skills now, so that's a great place to start. kidscookrealfood.com/enlightening is where when we're open for camp, like we are right now, coming up to June 2025, people can register for 100 free workshops. If we're in our off season and we don't have a current camp coming up, there will still be 4 free videos there so people can get a little taste of just kind of how I bring together lots and lots of different experts. That's my superpower, really, is networking and bringing difficult skills down to a child's level. So I would love to welcome people to Life Skills Now.
Okay, fantastic. You've mentioned the link a few times. We'll be sure to have it in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.